independent journalist and former CNN anchor Don Lemon appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live late Monday to address his recent arrest by federal officers. Lemon said there is a difference between a protester and a journalist, revealing that he tried to surrender to the feds days before he was handcuffed. Let's take a listen.
I retained an attorney, and the attorney reached out to them and said, basically, I understand that you have an interest because your folks have been talking about it, and so if you are serious about this, then let's do it the right way. He's perfectly willing to self-report it, which means turn yourself in, and so we don't have to go through this whole rigmarole. And never heard back from them. People who are accused of much worse things than I am accused of doing is they are allowed the courtesy. I mean, Donald Trump was allowed the courtesy to turn himself in when he was.
That's right.
He did.
Lemon then explained how he was arrested by the federal officers while he was returning to his hotel room after a pre-Grammy Awards event. Let's listen.
All of a sudden, I feel myself being jostled and people trying to grab me and put me in handcuffs. And I said, what are you doing here? And they said, we came to arrest you. And I said, well, who are you? And then finally they identified themselves. And I said, if you are who you are, then where's the warrant? And they didn't have a warrant. So they had to wait for someone from outside, an FBI guy, to come in to show me a warrant on a cell phone. And by that time, I was trying to, figure out what was going on and get my bearings, and they dropped all my stuff. My glasses had fallen on the floor.
A federal indictment unsealed last week shows Lemon, another journalist, Georgia Fort, and several activists who were present at the protest at the Minnesota church were charged with conspiracy to deprive rights and violating the FACE Act that is intended to protect worshippers. Lemon is set to appear in court on Saturday. Well, I know we have different views on Don Lemon, and I'm much more pro him than you are, but I mean, I would hope you would...
It would not be hard to be more pro Don Lemon than I am.
It wouldn't, and I have...
Pro is zero.
Well, I had no objection to him at all. I thought he was fine, but my sympathies for him have risen in the wake of this latest thing. Before we get into the Don Lemon thing, I do think while we're talking about this matter, we haven't had a chance to address on today's show what I thought was appalling bullying behaviour of Caitlin Collins yesterday in the Oval Office, where President Trump accused her of not smiling enough to try to evade a question about Epstein as it happens. But the reason I mention that is I see the Don Lemon thing in the context of those kind of intimidatory or chilling behaviours or patterns of behaviour, and that's why I'm sympathetic to him. I'm assuming you're not.
I don't have any problem with Caitlin Collins. I think she asks basically fair, tough questions of Democrats and Republicans. I think she does a good job. Trump should leave her alone, but if he wants to yell at her, he can yell at her. He obviously shouldn't take any legal action against her, and hasn't. Don Lemon is a little bit more of an unclear case to me at this point. I certainly don't think the Trump administration should just go around arresting journalists. I think Lemon himself is a little confused about, or thinks there's some distinction here that isn't meaningful distinction between journalist and protester. The distinction is not, there's no class of people, journalists, with a special set of protections. The act of journalism is protected because speech and expression are protected, and protesting is protected, but not trespassing on private property or interrupting a church's private property. You can't, as soon as, the church is generally open to people to enter, so their thing becomes illegal once they start interrupting the service, and if the pastor wants them to leave, then you should leave, and if you're not doing that, you are at that point trespassing. So with the Don Lemon part, it gets a little confusing, because if he's not specifically told to leave and he's just recording or observing the events, then yes, I agree.
That's journalism.
Anything wrong? Yes. Right. The allegation, and I don't know if they can prove this or if it's true, is that he himself also got in the way or blocked someone from leaving, and that is what violates the FACE Act. If they have evidence of, now they need to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. They did not, because they did not just charge him with trespassing. They're going after this bigger thing. I also question just the wisdom of this showy fight with a very, frankly, attention-seeking individual. It seems like it might be good for Don Lemon. They roughed him up. They didn't let him turn himself in, which would have been the just normal thing to do. They wanted some, again, showy public arrest with him. That doesn't seem like that seems to like they're seeking attention now, and I think that's a bad incentive on the government side. So I'm certainly bothered by it, but I haven't been able to see the evidence that he did the thing if he did the thing they said he did, then that does violate the law and is not protected First Amendment speech.
So I would guess push back on the attention-seeking part in the regard as it is directed by you against Don Lemon, because the forces of the government here have come down on him. We'll get to the specifics in a second, but the forces of the government have come down on him and charged him with something. He obviously believes and argues that that action is unjust. One way then to push back against that action is to go as public as possible with it and to elicit public sympathy or solidarity for your cause, which he has the perfect right to do. Now, in relation to the indictment or the charges against him, one of the reasons I am enormously skeptical is there is some phrasing somewhere in this case about his interview with the pastor. And it's like something to the effect of like Lemon and someone else surround the pastor or position themselves on each side of him. Like if you're interviewing someone in person, you're going to be in proximity to the person. That does not remotely mean you're somehow like blocking their escape in some way. Now, the bigger topic, I think, is the danger of the use of specious or ill-founded charges to open the door for prosecutorial actions against journalists and reporters generally.
I share that concern, but I mean, you can't just tag. I mean, it gets into how much what was his awareness of what they were going to do. I mean, journalist wants to tag along with a bank robbery. It's going to get charged as an involved person, probably in most circumstances.
I mean that's
the journalists who, if the journalists had gone in to the Capitol on January 6th, they would have been. I mean, our footage comes from the protesters themselves, because journalists didn't go in and probably would have been charged. Some journalists got charged. Steve Baker, I believe is his name. He's a conservative, maybe Blaze affiliated. I'm getting the details wrong. He got charged with, I think, kind of a knowledge or awareness or interaction with the protesters such that they thought he was effectively one of them, and he said he's a journalist. So you can't. This distinction doesn't matter from the government's standpoint.
I mean, so first of all, I know nothing about the specifics
and
of the Steve
I
Baker
did not
case.
even present it with exact details. So,
but I mean, the argument I think the government is making the argument in Don Lemon's case that he in some way conspired with the protesters. Now, I mean, even if
he didn't just opportunistically say, "Oh, look, there's a protest going on in this church." Go in like he was with them before it happened. He was talking to them. He didn't happen across this the way you or I or anyone might have. You know, sometimes you're at a public, like I'm at we've been at the DNC or the RNC. A protest breaks out. You see it. You go up. You start talking to people. That's different than knowing, and that's not illegal. That protest is not illegal. But it's different than knowing it was going to happen.
Yeah, well, and also,
blurry, obviously.
I mean, it's very blurry because, like, knowing a protest is going to happen versus knowing protesters are going to allegedly or debatably break the law. Like, those are two different things as well. So I think that one of the dangers, I saw AOC talking to, was it Lemon? On some online sort of forum, and she was very good about making the point about the idea that the purpose is really to highlight or to isolate one person, in this case Don Lemon, and two people, Georgia Ford as well, from the general sort of broader journalistic community, pin stuff on them and then use that as a precedent to delegitimize or to cause self-censorship among other people. And so I do think that those are very grave dangers.
Got a lot more to talk about on Rising. Please stay with us.